right, welcome back to Jeff Koinange live one-on-one with Koigi Wawamwere. There's a tweet here all the way from Birmingham, Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah, Goko Mburu. Watching from Birmingham, Alabama, I never get enough of listening to Koigi Wawamwere with a lot of admiration.
Well, thank you.
Look at that. Well, live streaming all the way from Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, we don't work for nothing. It's
okay. Well, I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
Has the struggle been worth it? Because, you know, people don't understand. There's a whole generation that doesn't know Koigi Wawamwere, that doesn't know you were detained all the way back from Jomo Kenyatta's time.
Yeah.
There's a whole generation.
And you're asking whether it was worth it.
Yes.
Yes, it was. Because remember, Jeff, that when our fathers, our parents were fighting for independence in the Mau Mau War, we all expected a heaven after independence. At least for me, I was young, but I had my vision. And in the village where I grew up, we all believed that after independence, things would be very different, that we would eat better, we would clothe better, we would be in better houses, we would get better jobs, we would be paid well, we would have land. All the things that we saw Mzungu having are what we also wanted to have.
Yeah. And
we believed that it is our right. So when independence came, and those things did not come with it, because it turned out actually, as it was described by Jaramogi, not yet Uhuru, or as I describe it, independence without freedom. Now, when we got independence without democracy, and also lacking in all the things that we wanted, for most of us, for a few people, they did manage to get into the Mzungu's house and, to get Mzungu's farm. Yeah. They got Mzungu's job. So those ones had no problem and they were quite happy with the situation. But for the rest of us who were outside, where the disappointment was heavy, where are the good things? And where is freedom to speak? Where is freedom to move about? Where is, all these things that we call democracy? Where is democracy? We said, no, something is wrong. And this, we got short-changed. What we have is less than what we bargained for. So let us restart the struggle. Let's use the freedom to govern ourselves to put things right. Little did we know that our black masters would be just as ruthless with us as the white masters had been. Yeah. But for me, after that, around that time, I went to the US, and I was really surprised that a country that had been a colony, just like Kenya, had managed so much development for herself.
Yeah, but that took 200 and change years, by the way.
Yes, nevertheless. And
a lot of hardships and challenges and obstacles in between.
Absolutely. We were not afraid at all of the obstacles. What we hated is sitting still and expecting or accepting things as they were, because we said this is really not what we wanted. So we said, let's tell our government that, the check we got has bounced. Can we, just to quote Martin Luther King. So we said, we must fight. If we want things, and remember, I was saying this in America, where there had been the civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King and others like Malcolm X and so forth. So the spirit of freedom had not gone down. It was just as high as when I was a small boy listening to my grandmother teach me freedom songs. So we said we must fight. And I remember I quit the university, I came back, I became a journalist, and it became too hot. As a journalist, I was visited every weekend by the police, who sometimes made my home their abode. They would come and demand to be opened for. I would open for them. They would take a seat, lean their guns against the wall and sleep. And I would...
But would they harass you in all this?
Yeah, but can you imagine? You are trying to... I mean, you are in your house.
Yes.
Police have come, 3, 4 of them.
With guns.
With guns. And they lean them on the wall. And you are expected to sleep. How do you sleep? Torture cannot be worse than that. I mean, it is terrible.
Right.
So, anyway, we said, despite these difficulties, we must fight. When I couldn't fight as a journalist, writing for Sunday Post, I thought maybe I should go to Parliament. With the immunity there, I should be able to get some more gains of those that we were expecting and were not getting. But when I go to Parliament, I found that Parliament itself was very much a captive of this one-party dictatorship, and that it was not going to be easy. You know, I was as much a prisoner in Parliament as I was outside it. Yeah. But we said, a few of us, we said we must fight, because unless we do, nobody else will. I remember one day I was taken to Manyani and I met George Anyona, and George Anyona was welcoming me into detention and saying, Mheshimiwa, karibu. And then he heard my disappointment in my voice, said, you are telling me karibu into detention. And then he said, but my brother, if these things must be done, if we don't do them, who will? So we fought. I mean, it's a long story.
Sure.
You know, until we got where we were. But looking at things as they are, the fact that I can come to a studio other than the government studio, and we can have this conversation without the fear that they are waiting for me outside here. I mean, it is something.
Sure.
So it was worth it. Yeah. If things were to be reversed and have myself taken back to my village where I was growing up without ever wearing a shoe or wearing a pullover to protect myself against cold, where I had to wait until Christmas to be able to have chapati, where, I mean, everything was more or less like hell, although I hadn't been to hell to see how it was. Yes, I would struggle again.
Sure.
I would put up the same struggle. I would.
You wouldn't change a thing?
Not a thing.
Are we far away from where we should be?
Yes, we are very far away. Because this, and I will say this, despite the fact that it is something that has been said before. How countries that were at par with us at independence have now gone so far ahead of us? What does that say of our efforts? We are not working hard enough. You know, if you go, Jeff, you have been there. You have been to the US. These people were as colonized as we were. Go to other places like Norway. I know that by the end of the Second World War, some of these countries, you were saying that they have had their 200 years of independence. Maybe that's why they are doing better. Remember, Europe was almost completely demolished during the Second World War.
Correct.
Completely destroyed. But they built their nations all over again and built them up more beautifully, to look more beautiful than they were before the war.
Look at Singapore and Malaysia.
Look at Singapore, look at Malaysia, look at Indonesia, look at all these countries, the so-called Asian tigers. What can explain our problem? Because we have a problem that is making it difficult for us to move at the same speed as others.
Let's face it.
We lack patriotism. We don't work hard enough, and we have allowed things that should never be allowed by people who want to develop. That is corruption and negative ethnicity.
Absolutely.
And bad leadership. Remember that proverb which says, when the lead sheep of the flock limps, the flock does not reach the pastures.
I was alluding to exactly that when I wanted to say we are our own worst enemy.
Absolutely.
Ourselves.
Absolutely. And remember, it's like we really, maybe the problem is here. The people who are in the, in the lead positions, the ones who are showing us the way, it's like after defining leadership to mean an opportunity for aggrandizement, self-aggrandizement and self-enrichment, after reaching that point, our leaders have lost, you can almost say, the need to lead. They don't need to lead. They have already everything that they can get from leadership. So it's like those dogs that are said in the Bible, they go to sleep. They have gone to sleep after that. Otherwise, Jeff, why would we know that the problem killing us is corruption, but we do not declare war against corruption? Why would we know that the problem that is responsible for our disunity and disagreements and madness between us, which makes it impossible for us to do much as a collectivity, if we know this is a big problem and there is a way of solving it, as we have been shown by Rwanda, a small country not very far from here, but who have suffered hell from this monster and they know how to tame him, why are we not learning from them? Because it's like we are still beneficiaries of the very problems that have made sure that we do not develop. And therefore, we cannot develop. Look at Korea. 7 ex-presidents have been to prison. If we have only one ex-president in prison, I think people, the others will have learned a big lesson. They will not dare do it. But if we kind of conclude that we can develop even when doing the same things that we know have made it impossible for us to develop, we will be like those crazy people that Einstein talked about, who do the same thing all over and expect different results. Those are crazy people.
Mad people.
So we have been crazy in one form or another, because truly, if I don't think that it is possible to develop if we don't walk the route that others who have developed have walked. I can't see God being lenient with us and saying, you can be lazy, you can be corrupt, you can hate each other, you can kill each other, and you still develop. It's not possible.
Such a good point, such a solid point. And having said that, there are people in the present dispensation, if you will, there are people who are very, very jittery out there, feeling very jittery, left out of the equation, feeling, hey, this was not meant to be. Where am I? Where's my position now? What's going on?
I don't know. Are you referring to people in the Jubilee
Absolutely.
government feeling that they have been left out?
Left out of this new equation.
And the trouble is that we don't know what the complete equation is.
Correct.
We have yet to be told. But whatever it is, I feel that these realignments after a major political development are not strange. They are not unique. Remember, Jeff, after independence, we were a multi-party state. Then President Kenyatta pushed for the dissolution of KADU to unite it with the KANU in the name of unity and progress. And being told, he also told us that unless we united, we wouldn't develop. So we succumbed. And after we had become, then we ended up becoming one party, which was, and you know by definition, one party is all the time dictatorial.
Correct.
Once we had done that, trouble erupted. Because, as you said, after the merger of KANU and KADU, there was no more opposition. It was only one dictatorship, you can almost say so, or a multi-party dictatorship.
Yeah.
And in exercising its dictatorship, its dictatorial tendencies and acts and whatever, people realized that they needed an opposition once again, and so Jaramogi set up the KPU. Mm-hmm. But there was no democracy that could have allowed KPU to grow. It had to be smashed by the dictatorship that was there then. You say it is possible with the current realignment where ODM, more or less, and even other NASA components of NASA are looking for a way of going back to Jubilee or trying to link up with the Jubilee. If that is so, I think there is nothing unnatural about it. It will be like history repeating itself. And I don't have the fear myself that if that happens, democracy will die. No, that opposition will die. Because all that will depend, whether opposition will die or thrive, depends on whether democracy will be annihilated or it will be allowed to be. If we do not interfere with democracy, then we are, whether ODM unites with
Jubilee.
With the Jubilee or not, I think there will be an opposition will spring up.
Spring up out of Jubilee, you mean?
Out of Jubilee and out of NASA, because there are many people who are very disappointed because they were promised, they were Canaan, they were promised heaven, and now they have seen leaders going where, somewhere else to look after their own interests. And now they know that they cannot continue following these people without getting lost. Yeah. Now they must look for an alternative vehicle that will take them to Canaan, because you cannot ask them to accept being in the desert forever. If you ask them to do that, it's like asking them to commit suicide. And by nature, suicide is not something that one commits out of choice. Yeah. So I'm not overly worried. What I would be scared about is if we started making a frontal attack on democracy. As long as we keep our democracy the way it is, and as long as we mature up and we stop demonizing opposition, if we can realize that there is work that opposition does that cannot be done by the ruling party, and therefore accommodate the opposition, we will have done ourselves a great deal of good.
Do you see a lot of realigning between now and 2022?
There will be a lot of realigning. Yeah. There will be a lot of realigning. Already, I was looking at the conference, whatever people think of this devolution, and I thought it was rather telling that the president was to open or opened the conference, and today Raila was giving his speech, and then it will be Ruto tomorrow. I don't know whether to close the conference or whatever. Yeah. But if I asked myself, if I was Ruto, what would I feel? It's like, it's like a wife who is married, yes, to somebody, and then the husband brings another lady close by, and now everywhere they go, yeah, they go as a triple instead of going as a double. Yeah. Or it starts, you are going to get worried when the lady is trying to bring you food. She finds that the other lady has already brought you food. There is going to be trouble.
Absolutely.
And I think that Ruto looks to me to be quite worried. Yeah. Maybe he has good reasons to be worried, unless, of course, this whole thing is something that is a conspiracy that is probably a conspiracy thought out by the president and his deputy to do something that will contain Raila once and for all. If that is what it is, then maybe we need not see anything wrong with how Ruto looks.
Right.
But it looks like he is more worried.
The body language says a lot.
Yeah, it says a lot. It says a lot. Yeah. But again, I think that Ruto should understand why people could be uncomfortable with his campaign. First of all, he started the campaign too early. Secondly, he used the elections to set up his network. Again, a bit too early. Whatever he does today, to me, looks like a campaign. And yet, when I look at him, I think he hasn't done a lot to enhance his democratic credentials. He still looks to me like a tribal leader. I'm worried of him wanting, pushing things that I would call, what do you call it? Blackmail politics, where an entire community is being, in a certain area, is being told that unless you vote for me, then you don't have a future here, or you're gonna explain why I didn't make it through, or even somebody wanting 20 years of power, when his boss has only had 10. Why would anybody want 20 years of power in this day and age? I think that's a little bit too ambitious. I think he should simply accept his 10 and leave other people to fight for the other 10.
Is he still the front runner right now?
Right now, I would say yes, he is the front runner, but I don't think that he is going to be the front runner for too long. And because I can almost see him reacting, and when a deputy chooses to react, he had better be very careful not to react again as the boss, because you can. I don't know whether you remember, there was one time that Moi was going to Ethiopia, and he gave a speech at the airport, and he said that Kenyans must learn how to. They must operate. They must be like parrots. They must talk like parrots. That is, just say what he has said, nothing more or less, and they should put a comma where necessary and a full stop where necessary. And he said, that's what I did when I was deputy. I followed everything. I repeated everything that Kenyatta said, and this is what I expect from you. So this is something that Ruto must learn. He must not show any anger at all. If he shows anger, I think it could only go against him. So I think he needs to be very, very careful. I'm not his supporter, so I'm not advising him to help him get out of trouble. But but if I were him, I would have to be very, very
Who else
careful.
is on this lineup? Who else could give him a run for his money? You think Raila could run?
I think Raila will run.
You think so?
Yes, that's what I think. Unless there is a family dynasty in the making, unless the families we talked about, the Kenyatta family, Moi family, Kibaki family, and who else?
Raila's.
And Raila's. Unless there is a conspiracy to construct a dynasty, which also I think would serve Raila better than Ruto. Ruto is now an outsider coming from the so-called hustler nation. I disagree with Ngunyi that Ruto is quite. Ruto, I don't think is quite a hustler yet. He has been, but now he has moved out of there by far. And I don't think that with the Hustler Nation so divided ethnically, I cannot see them rallying behind him as their champion. After all, he has not been their champion. So I think the person who could be planning to run against Ruto would only be Raila Odinga. And I think that he cannot be seeking whatever support he is seeking now for nothing. I believe that he is still young enough to run, and he still has his ambition. He has learned, he has, you can see that he has really almost committed suicide politically in order to fit into the...
There's no going back.
There's no going back.
I asked Senator Kipchumba Murkomen the other day on Hot 96, I asked him if it came to that, if it came to Ruto versus Raila. He said, Jeff, that's the best race we would want. This is the perfect race for us because this would show that Ruto is no pushover. He would go ramming straight through and take it.
I don't believe so. I actually don't think that Ruto has everything wrapped up. I think there are a lot of people who would be very uncomfortable with his 20 years in power. What could he have done that would be so sweet and great and missed by everybody that they would be willing in this era to give Ruto 20 years of power? I really don't see that happening.
Okay, let's start with 5. Can you do the 5?
He already has 5. He is into his second 5, so that's 10. I'm saying that he should not expect to get another 10. I think that will be asking for too much.
But he's always wanted that ultimate prize. That's in his lifelong ambition.
Yes, he may have it as a lifetime ambition, but he must also think that the people giving him will ask whether he deserves that or not, because it's really it is them who will be carrying the burden, not him.
Yeah.
The governance of 20 years will be for the others, not for him. And just having finished, remember we had 24 years of Moi, we had 15 years of Kenyatta, and people are more comfortable with the shorter terms rather than long terms. And then there is the question of, do you think a lot of people will accept to be blackmailed into voting for somebody out of fear that if they don't, there will be catastrophe for them? I can assure you that a lot of people are saying that we don't owe Ruto a debt. If he thinks that his support for Uhuru was a debt, then that is a debt that is Uhuru's. No, it doesn't. It can't possibly be for any one community. I don't think the Kikuyus would want to be put into such a situation. Those Kikuyus who could suffer consequences in the event of an eruption. But in any case, I think these are things that will be discussed and settled long before we get there.
Sure.
And I think that the more they are talked about, the more people will understand that indeed Ruto is not their best choice. Remember, again, as I said, his democratic credentials are doubtful. Remember when he was in the KANU, was it YK 92?
Yeah.
I remember the fracas that happened in 2007 and 8. Remember, his history is fairly questionable. He doesn't have a clean record like, say, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who was only known by the name of what he championed, Weadhi, or freedom. He doesn't have anything like that. He doesn't have a history of struggle.
But he's a hard-working man, though. Hard-working man.
Yes, but he cannot build himself. He cannot make himself a president by his hard work. Nyerere used to say, if you are such a hard worker, I will give you 2,000 acres of land, and I will give you a djembe and a tractor. Go and develop yourself, we see. and, and you cannot develop yourself.
Yeah.
Nyerere is the same person who used to say, if you see somebody too ambitious for power, be very worried. And because when somebody is fighting so hard to get to State House, he must be thinking of something beneficial to himself and not the whole nation. And he said, if whenever you see somebody who is dying to go to State Houses because he expects to do business in State House, and the only business that can be done in State House is the business of selling the nation, and such a person should be avoided like leprosy.
My goodness. So what? So should someone should power be given to you? Should leadership be given to you?
No. You should fight for it, but you must remember that you are not fighting for it against nothing. There will be resistance. There will be people who will question you. No one should expect to lead people without being questioned about his credentials, what he has given, and what he is going to give again. Anybody who wants to force people into voting him without thinking is dangerous.
But you know, he's read Machiavelli, the Prince. You know that.
We all have read Machiavelli.
Yes.
He is not the only one who reads him. So
let's look at some tweets. Eric Kinaga says, in our usual Kenyan element, we will soon forget what Koigi and other heroes fought and died for. And how will we forget by failing to finish what they started?
Absolute truth. Absolute truth. Before this country becomes developed, before this country becomes wholly democratic, then what we were fighting for will not have been achieved.
It will be for naught.
It will be for
just
naught.
Like our forefathers are they're spinning in their graves right now.
Exactly. And the way to get onto that track is to get the right leadership. If we don't start there, then we will not go anywhere.
Absolutely.
The right leadership, the right system.
Yeah. Gideon Collins says, Jeff, I'm awed by the words of Koigi. Such a strong sense of country. Listening to him makes me feel like I'm not doing enough to show my patriotism to this nation. Much respect and love to these great men, including the fallen Matiba. Great, great treasures. And I was saying earlier on, there are 28-year-olds, people who were born in 98, who have no clue who you are or what you went through.
I know, because I know people have been forgotten. I remember not once actually, because it's only then, I went to the funeral of Kagia. And
Bildad.
Yes, Bildad. And when I came back to town, I was talking to a lady about where I had been. I said I had been to the funeral of Kagia. And she asked me, who is Kagia? I asked her, you don't know who Kagia is? And she told me, yes, I don't know. And I had to explain. And I said, it's sad that we have forgotten our history, that the youth have forgotten their history, because people have to know their past to understand their present and to know where their future is. Without those two, there is no future. There must be a past and a present to have a future. Now, if we have our youth not clear about where they are coming from, how are they? They might even welcome back the people who colonized us. Tell them, come back. Everything will be good. We will be better with your leadership. Because they have forgotten that there was once. I keep on saying, sometimes to understand Kenya, you have to look at South Africa. People have forgotten that we were an apartheid state when the Wazungus were here. But because for some time we have not seen that open racism where the Africans are going to their own toilets, and it's not far off, or having to be on their own road, or to never to do certain jobs. I remember in 1969, Jeff, you won't believe, I was working for Barclays Bank in Nakuru, and we had two toilets for Wazungus and toilets for us. And in our toilet, we didn't even have toilet paper. And we had to rebel, I stood up one day and I said, I'm going home for toilet if the only toilet I can go to is the outdoor one. And the Mzungu said, what do you mean? I said, I mean exactly that. I need to go to toilet. I'm not allowed to go into this indoor toilet. I'm going home, and then I'll be back after 1 hour. And he said, you can't do that. Then I started going to that toilet, and we broke the blood thing.
1969.
1969.
6 years after independence.
Yes. And remember, even now, we still have some vestiges of, in some places, you can go and not be served as fast as you ought to be served as a customer.
Oh, yeah.
But what the point I'm trying to make is that we were once an apartheid state, belonging a European apartheid state. If we do not want that to happen to us again, let us then read our history. Somebody told me once that history is defined as a struggle of memory against forgetting.
Memory against forgetting.
Yeah, it is the struggle of memory against
the prince is here already.
Yeah,
Machiavelli.
Well, you mentioned him. You don't mention Machiavelli without him coming up.
Machiavelli says Kenya will be built by Kenyans themselves. Koigi reminds me of how ungrateful Africa kills its best sons. From Patrice Lumumba to Thomas Sankara to our very own Tom Mboya.
That's true, Jeff.
Spot on.
Yeah, we have done a lot of harm to ourselves.
Shame.
But it's not too late. There are other countries that you say that took much longer to pull themselves out of trouble.
Yeah.
But we have people we can learn from. And some people say, for us now who are trying to invest things, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already there. We take it and run with it.
Absolutely. Good point. Mike Memusi, you say? I salute all home heroes. I've learned a lot from you, sir. Wamwere, you are a true Kenyan son.
I'm grateful.
Yeah, we read. Oh, Eric again, huh? Will my generation ever get to fight for something so passionately in the same manner that Koigi and Matiba did, other than Wi-Fi passwords?
Yeah. We have to instill patriotism. We have to learn it.
Yeah.
Jeff,
how do we do it for these kids?
For me, when I grew up, I was told that without the success of the struggle, we will never get out of trouble. I was told there was no other country for us except Kenya. And I grew up knowing that we were suffering oppression. And the only way to get rid of oppression is to be patriotic. I have said in many places, when I went to the US, I was infected by the bugs of patriotism, although not Kenyan patriotism. I learned a lot from the Americans, especially the African Americans, how they were fighting for their own. And I found, strangely enough, that people like Malcolm X had more admiration for the Mau Mau than Kenyans had. That shocked me, because Malcolm X would all the time refer to the struggle of the Mau Mau to inspire the African Americans. And I learned that also, both in America and here, I learned that unless we are patriotic, unless we are nationalistic, embracing everybody and working as one people, it is unlikely that we could get ourselves out of trouble.
But 242 years almost since they got independence in 1776.
Jeff, we were more patriotic 50 years ago when we were fighting for independence than we are today. The Mau Maus were more patriotic than many British are to their own country. So we do not need that many more years. What about the Malaysians that we talked about? Singaporeans. Why should they be more patriotic than we are?
Lee Kuan Yew, leadership.
That's right, leadership.
Daniel Maithia, you say, good to see Koigi on JK Live. Jeff asked Koigi, what are the key changes would he see in the current government? Eesh, it's a tall order.
It is.
Name one or two. Name one or two.
Let me say, for instance, when I heard President Kenyatta advise leaders to talk to other leaders, even if it is the leaders they disagree with, I was moved and I was very impressed. This reaching out to the opposition for a dialogue is a worthwhile development. It's something that somebody cannot just dismiss. Of course, we have our other, you asked me to raise two. I think those two are good examples illustrating that all is not lost. In fact, we can pull ourselves out of the pit. It is possible. But as I said, I think when you look at the big four of jobs, housing, food, and health care, that is, I mean, you get impressed. But as I said, I'm totally convinced that we will not achieve those four big goals without getting rid of our major obstacles, which are, you can say, the most serious are also four: bad leadership, bad system, corruption, negative ethnicity. If we combine the two and fight them as one, we will succeed and we will go far and we will get out of where we are.
Absolutely. Good point. We're looking at SMSs now, text messages. Dr. Mwangi from Nakuru says, let's take this opportunity to remember all professionals who fought very hard to ensure you and your compatriots came out of this experience alive.
I don't know whether the Dr. Mwangi that has written this SMS is the same Dr. Mwangi who used to be my doctor in prison, because he really worked very hard for me. I remember once, Jeff, when a tumor in my bladder had burst open, and I was just, I was passing blood throughout, and the prison's authorities were not willing to take me to hospital. And it is Dr. Mwangi, together with my lawyers, who went to court. 4 days later, after the tumor had burst open, and they will not even allow me. They will not take me to hospital for treatment. And even after we had been given permission by the court, I would still not be allowed to stay even for one hour or even half an hour in the theater, outside the theater. I had been taken to Nakuru nursing home. I was taken to the theater. When I came out, I found askaris waiting for me. They just picked me and took me back to prison. When they tried it, when I was booked in the Nakuru Memorial Hospital, they would still not give me admission because of the soldiers who had, the special branch, who had surrounded the whole hospital. So it is those kind of things that actually led to the demise of Kenneth Matiba. People being confined for 24 hours every day, people being subjected to an imprisonment without end. You can be there for 1 month, you can be there for 1 year, you can be there for 10 years, you can be there for 20 years. That kind of torture, the human body and mind and body and soul is not meant for. And if it's not taken care of, you go under very fast. Yeah. And Dr. Mwangi, I salute you for the work that you did.
Absolutely.
Some of us would not have survived.
One wonders how people like Nelson Mandela did 27 years.
You know, when you go there, a lot of times it actually, I was surprised that it helps a little to come from the lower classes, in the sense that when they give you very fairly bad food, you have seen it before sometimes. When they put you on the floor, You have also slept on the floor before.
Yeah.
Except things, of course, no one can be said to is permanently exposed to diseases as we were. Or when you are told you cannot talk, no one is, we are not created to be in silence forever.
Okay, one more text and then we wind up. Steve from Kiambu, you say, hi Jeff, Kenyans should honor heroes while they are still alive. The person you are talking to is a hero. Let them start with Koigi wa Wamwere. I agree.
And also, there's something else that we need to do for heroes.
Go on.
I think that we must make sure that, for instance, the money that has been paid to them, it actually reaches them. It's useless for courts to award detainees compensation, and then that money does not reach them at all.
Peterson Kariuki says, I get shivers and goosebumps when I watch the likes of Koigi wa Wamwere, heroes who gave up everything selflessly for the nation's sake. I watched a clip of his mother in court during his trial.
That's right.
Broke my heart.
Absolutely.
Broke my heart, he says.
It's good when we remember. I will tell my mother that people still remember. And but it's also sad, Jeff, that there are some courts that do not accept that our mothers, when they were at the Uhuru Park, that they underwent torture. You can't imagine, if I would want somebody to confirm to me or to convince me that it is not torture to have 3 of your children locked up for a period you don't know how long. And when you look at things as they are, things look so grim that your husband, like my father, who was, of course, the husband of my mother, remember, Jeff, that he died when he carried his radio to the garden, and he was listening to the election results, and he believed so much that only Matiba could have released his 3 sons, that when the vote started turning against Matiba, and it was finally announced that Moi had won, he collapsed with a stroke. Wow. And soon after that, he got some other strokes, which killed him.
Yeah.
So, really, what can we say? Is good to be remembered now, and it's also good for people to have courage. We started off with those people who are named in the church.
Yes.
I know now that indeed there is, because I went to Matiba's home to condole with them, and met Gideon Moi there. And I was able to learn that both the Matibas and the Mois are good friends. Nevertheless, I would like to say that their rule, the rule of past presidents, is the one that is killing people like Matiba and some other detainees whom I know. Many are sick, others cannot, and they cannot afford medicine and all that. If you put through anybody through this kind of suffering and torture, at some point when this man no longer poses any threat to you, you should be able to apologize to the person and say, it's like there's another proverb that says that men, they cut each other in fight, but thereafter bandage also each other. When you have knocked somebody down, it is not cowardly to pick them by the hand and raise them up. It is the same thing that I would like to ask Moi. He's still alive. Maybe this is why God has kept him alive for so long. Please apologize to Matiba. It doesn't make you a lesser man. It makes you a hero, if you can do it. If you don't do it, people will wonder. Please, it will be good for this country. It will be good for all of us to be able to say, yes, we knocked each other down. We must lift each other up. It is over. We don't have to continue fighting. Dictatorship is no longer there. So I think that it is, I wish Moi can be good enough. I think I hope somebody can advise him to say apologies to asking Kenyatta now. Kenyatta is also gone. Now probably they are making it up there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I can imagine the party that's going on up there.
Absolutely. Are you looking forward to?
Yeah, no, I can wait. By the way, how old are you?
Why do you want me to declare my age?
Because you look very young, by the way.
Well,
a lot of people have commented how young you look.
No, that's a bonus that I get for what I went through.
Okay. The dreadlocks, do you miss the dreads?
Yes, but I had them for a purpose. And once the purpose was done, I made, is it called an oath? No. What would you call it?
Yeah. You made a vow.
I made a vow that I'll have these dreads until the day Moi will quit power. And when he quit power, I kept my vow. I went to Jomo Kenyatta High School together with 300 other people who had also kept a vow when I kept mine. They also kept theirs, never to shape their hair, their head, and never to shave their beard until Moi quit power. So we were there, a big party, and we cut our dreadlocks and I don't know what you would call beards, when they are in dreadlocks. But
did you keep them?
I have them.
They're somewhere safe.
I'm hoping that someday when we get our due recognition, somebody will say, give us a piece of that. We want to keep in the museum.
Nice. On that note, Koigi wa Wamwere, such a pleasure to see you again.
I'm also honored.
And please don't be such a stranger, okay? I mean...
No, the ball is in your court.
Okay.
Not in my court.
I hear you there. I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for your story.
Thank you very much.
It. This was a great day, auspicious day to talk about heroes, and you're definitely one of them. Thanks so much.
Well, I'm honored for the recognition, and I hope that we still have work to do before we go.
Absolutely.
The moment you stop doing anything, you stop being a hero, and I hope that I will be on the straight path to my last day.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. The moment we stop talking is the moment we start fighting.
Even when we get weak, Mandela said, a saint is that person who never stops trying, doing the right thing even after failure.
There you go. Absolutely. Koigi wa Wamwere, folks. What a man. What a hero. Great to talk to him always and get some insights going forward. Remember, JKL every Wednesday evening. Those 3 letters on the keyboard, that's the place to be. And this time, powered by Telkom. Telkom, moving with you. Thanks so much for being a part of this show. Keep tweeting at Kwamwere, at Kwenangajeff. Hashtag is JK Live. Tomorrow morning on Hot 96 with Jeff and Jalas. Join us from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the best, the hottest breakfast show in all of Africa. Make sure you join us. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. Good night. Good luck. God bless this great nation of ours.